So Charles Van Morgan trying to cure that we're in the dark. Charles Van Morgan live in the morning. Come on in. So we got a great show for you today. We're going to talk a little bit about people in power in the government corruption. Or you could shorten it, government corruption, but it's not really government corruption. Government's a good thing. It's about people in power that have been voted in by people, by deceiving people, and they're crooked and they lie and they put people to help them that facilitate their lies. And we're going to talk this morning about people in power, how crooked they are, and some of the crimes that they commit. Charles Van Morgan in the morning, come on in. So we started a little early. We'll go back over stuff, maybe a long video in case people missed. And we're going to cover government corruption. Charles Van Morgan in the morning, come on in. Thank you all very much. We have started about 25 minutes earlier than we usually do. But we're trying to get the earlier crowd, see how that works, testing a few things out. Come on in, Charles Van Morgan in the morning. We are talking about government corruption. I'm going to repeat a few things because people that come in later may miss. But we're on our way to the bridge. We're going to have to find a place where we're going to show you some evidence of corruption by people in government power. So let me turn this around and thank y'all. So we're waiting for people to show up. And Charles Van Morgan in the morning, welcome, Charles Van Morgan. Like, share, comment, and we're going to talk about people in power and their corruption and how they caused hundreds of people to get killed all across the state. We're going to show you evidence of that. Charles Van Morgan in the morning. Let me turn this around. Well, let's see here. Well, thank you. Morgan in the morning. We're going to talk about government corruption. So we already got 24 people in here. Wow, that's pretty good. I got me a light this morning because my light on my phone evidently don't want to cooperate. So we got it on now. Let's see if it stays on. Okay, no, it's not going to stay on. So here we go. Charles Van Morgan in the morning. Thank you all for showing up. We're going to talk about a little government corruption this morning with proof about how people in government power, cause death and destruction on Tennessee roadways. So we'll read some of the, with evidence, we'll read some of the comments. Let's talk about why do you shoot chocolate? Hi, black man. I'm not. Howdy from Southeast. Hello, Kentucky. Mega, that's right. I can see you. Okay, good. Okay. Got me a little flashlight this morning. So, Charles Van Morgan in the morning. Howdy from Southeast. Mega, I can see you. Let's talk about how much Jesus loves you. That's right. Amen. He does. So, like, share, comment. Let me turn this around and we'll get right into the show. Charles Van Morgan in the morning. Today we're talking about evidence of government corruption, people in power in the government committing criminal acts against you and caused a lot of people in Tennessee to get killed. And we got proof off the record that they committed perjury, lied under oath. It's the system that's corrupt. Once the top crooked people start a process going, there's nobody in line that'll step up and say, wait a minute, that's not right. Let's don't do that. Howdy from Queensland. Hello, Queensland. Queensland, do something about it, boomer. I'm not a boomer. Thank you for insinuating that. Let me turn this around. We got a bunch of people in here. Like, share, comment. So we're going to show evidence from the record how people commit perjury, proof positive, and cause people to get killed. Hello, sir. Hello, CJBI. So we will talk about that today. Got a lot to cover today, real important information, kind of alarming about how the government in the state of Tennessee, and I've heard it's crooked all across the nation, but I don't know that, but I know it's crooked in Tennessee. Let me turn this around, get a better camera on here, and here we go. Here we go. So hopefully y'all can see me. Oh my goodness, having a little trouble with the light here. Sorry about that. We'll get it straightened out here in just a second. So yeah, and hopefully we can get the light on. Yep. Okay, yeah, now we got the light on. Okay, here we go. Just a little button there we had to turn on. I didn't even know about that. So you learn something new every day. So we're going to talk about a little dirty that caused people to get killed in the government. We started early today to catch the earlier crowd. Thank you all so much. We are getting thousands of views and people are listening. I really appreciate it. And I pray that God blesses you all. And this channel is a channel to promote voting, because people in power are crooked as hell. They're lying, cheating, robbing, raping, stealing, murdering, causing people to get killed. And we need to vote them out. We could start a social movement, kind of have a little education in social movements. I got a Master of Arts in sociology. The emphasis is in whoops. The emphasis is in criminology from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. So I know a little bit about social movements. And I know how a few people with a cell phone and internet access and a message that permeates telling the truth can change the course of governments in history. Even more now, it's easier now than in the days of Martin Luther King, Gandhi, and all the great leaders of the past. People have been able to change the course of history for the good, and that's what we're about. Promoting not violence, promoting voting. So today, like I promised you yesterday, we got a really good story talking about people in power, how they committed corruption. Tomorrow, I'm going to show some more incidences where the police had a confrontation with me and initiated a confrontation, tried to hurt my chances of getting elected to public office. But today we've got records, court records, proof where in the state of Tennessee, officials lied under oath to get a fake case through a courtroom, and the judge backed up the perjury and also added false evidence himself. That's justice in a Tennessee courtroom. These judges are crooked as hell. Once the governor gets elected, these judges fall in line. Once the governor gets elected by his small percentage of votes, about 36% of people voted in the last election. He got a little over 1 million of it. So he got less than 36%. Once he gets his proxy activated, the Republican Party in the state of Tennessee, then he can do whatever he wants to do, because judges don't worry about the Constitution. They throw the Constitution out the window. You know, your rights, the First Amendment, like what I'm doing now, freedom of speech. The governor won't let me speak. The governor had me arrested for running for public office, for carrying this sign, running for public office. The governor of Tennessee had me arrested. If you will notice yesterday, now the president don't even like him. The governor of the state of Tennessee, Crooked High Bills Lee, was in the White House. What a disgrace to this nation. Somebody of that level of crooked was standing in our White House. And the president of the United States has to send the Army, the National Guard to Memphis, because the governor in Tennessee is not capable of handling crime in the state of Tennessee. So he has to send the National Guard to Memphis to take care of crime there, because the governor, the highway patrol, the police department, and all the agencies in the state of Tennessee are inept and unable to handle the crime problem in Memphis. So they have to have federal assistance. And the governor's up there promoting that, which I'm all for that, federal assistance, because the state of Tennessee's not going to handle your crime problem, not under the dirty governor. But the governor will not allow you to have your First Amendment rights. He had me arrested. The Constitution might have got a right to freedom of speech. But you only have that right if judges will protect it. Judges don't protect that. They rule for the governor in order to get promoted and stomp on your constitutional rights. They told me in a case where they called me off the campaign trail that the First Amendment is limited. Of course it's limited. To me, it's not only limited, I don't have a First Amendment right. So let's see how many people we have on here. We're talking about government crimes that cause people to get killed. I'm going to show you factual evidence from a court record. Because listen to this, if you lie, you have to be very careful, because there's always stuff that can prove you're lying. There's evidence out there, usually, if people look hard enough, to prove you're not being honest. If you tell the truth, you don't have to worry about it. Even if something looks like you're not being honest, you can explain it in a legitimate way to say that that fact doesn't mean what you think it does. This is what that fact means. And that's what dirty lawyers with the state, they take a fact and take it out of context and say, this means something else, when it doesn't. And if you're telling the truth, you can say, no, that's not what that means. That's not what that means. I slowed down because I lost sight of the car. I didn't slow down because I seen the car. I was trying to make a decision whether or not to go on. If I'd seen a car and seen the wreck, I would have slowed down and stopped and got out to help like I did when I knew it was there. But see, they take that fact. Well, you slow down, you seen a wreck and knew it was there. And that's not true. But the government lies. The government lies, and their facts can't be disputed. They're black and white lies where the stuff they say is a blatant lie, and it can't mean anything else, because there's other parts in the record that disprove numerous times that they're lying, and that they cost people their lives. Let's see how many people we got in here. Thank y'all for joining. Charles Van Morgan in the morning. I appreciate y'all. Let's see. Wow, we got 134 people in here. Let's see some of the comments at the bottom. Okay, Jojo, do you usually think about men in a homosexual manner when you're angry, or is that just something you're always thinking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. That's pretty sick. It's faster than the, yeah, it's aliens. It's, okay. Balls suck, gators, rude chomp chomp. They may, because Tennessee's got the highway patrol on the sidelines. They're covering it up. That's right. Yes, fine. Seabag Gingers, Hendersonville, Tennessee. Okay. Freedom of speech, baby. Just when you thought I left Old Glory, I think you're Glory. Yeah, listen to you. Jojo, yeah, you're about a sick person. Okay, let's see here. Some of those comments are pretty disgusting. But go ahead. Thanks for running up my views. So let's talk about freedom of speech. Government corruption. Now, many of you know, and you can look at the video, I was in a pursuit in 2011, Thanksgiving night. I just worked a wreck where a man intentionally drove into a tree. I think it was a attempted suicide, because he drove intentionally to it, according to witnesses. They said he looked like he aimed for the tree and punched the gas and hit it head on. They were taking him to the hospital, and I called for another trooper to go to the hospital and take blood from because the man was probably intoxicated, and if we got back an alcohol level, then I could charge him later and hold people accountable for endangering other people's lives. And I had just worked that wreck, and I didn't know how bad he was hurt. So I was taking measurements so that we could put the car back into better investigation later if we needed to. Although with just one person injured, even fatally, you don't have to have a diagram scale map, because that kind of thing happens all the time. But I took measurements. And fatality, you're supposed to take measurements. I was out, took measurements from different established posts, and there's a way we're trained to do it. So I was taking measurements. I got the measurements done. It took me a while. I was on my way to the hospital to get the blood from the trooper, from the guy that rammed into a tree. Let's see if I'm walking right here. And on the way to the hospital to get the blood from Turdy, that's what I call him, Trooper Turdy. He brags about hitting people in the head with his flashlight. Turdy try to hit me in the head with a flashlight, see what happens to you. And he's a supervisor with THPP now. But anyway, I clocked a car going down Emory Road at a high rate of speed, 79 in a 40-mile-per-hour zone. And that's speeding on the interstate in the city, but this is it's a 4-lane road, and you can cross over. There's no median, so it's very dangerous to be going close to 80 miles an hour on that road. And my radar picked him up, moving front radar. And previously, a few days earlier, I had received an email from my supervisor, Sergeant McDonald, to write speeding tickets on that road to slow people down, because they had a lot of complaints, people flying down that road. So I initiated my blue lights and siren immediately, as per general order, and turned around and went in pursuit of the car. Yeah, sorry y'all. Here we go. I'm still live. So let's turn the camera back on. So I went in pursuit of the car that was speeding. Somebody must not be calling Trooper Turdy. So I went in pursuit and turned on my emergency equipment immediately before I even turned around, because the general order says that you have to turn on your emergency equipment, all of it, blue lights, siren, and your lights, when you're in pursuit of a violator, actual or suspected violator of the law. Before you go in pursuit of them, you're supposed to turn on your emergency equipment. And that is for a lot of different purposes. One of them is to warn the person that you're trying to get them stopped. When blue lights are behind them, you're supposed to stop. And also it warns the public around, because you have your siren on and everything, that there's a problem, that there's an issue, that people need to be careful, that you're going over the speed limit. Audio, the siren, and visual, the blue lights and headlights rotate, and to let people know that there's a problem, that you're going over the speed limit, that you're not violating the laws, but you're exceeding the speed limit, and you can do it legally if you have on all your equipment, and you're supposed to turn them on immediately when you're in pursuit of a violator, suspected violator of the law. So immediately upon making a maneuver to pursue a violator, suspected violator of the law, you're in pursuit when you're making a maneuver to go after them immediately then. So if they're coming the opposite direction and you're going to turn around behind them, try to get them stopped, you turn your blue lights on before you even turn around. Because one thing, you're going to make a turn in the middle of the road and you're going to accelerate to a high rate of speed to go after them. Now that's important, because of another incident that happened, that they protected a trooper, and it ended up pretty bad. But it's not about doing the right thing. It's about who people in government offices want to protect and who they want to hang out, regardless if they don't do anything wrong. So I had been a policeman for almost 20 years at the time. Another trooper had been a policeman for just a few years, but he was on the good side of the people in government power, and they let him get by with something very horrific. Now listen to the story, it's real important. Something very horrific. I'm just telling you how the government arranges things, how they rig things. So depending on what they want to do, if you're doing absolutely right, they can rig it and make it seem like you're doing something wrong and lie. They lie under oath. And you say, well, if they lie under oath, the judge will point out, no, he won't. The judge will allow them to lie under oath. And the judge will add to their lies and put more lies on top of what they're saying. The court system is just to back up what the governor says and to try to make it look good, to say to the public, hey, we gave him this process and this is the way that we're going to word it. They don't tell you that. This is the way we're going to word it to put out propaganda to make it look like that we're doing the right thing, that we're a just government and accurate and fair, when all the courts do pull out things that make somebody completely innocent look bad. That's what judges in Tennessee do. Yeah, that's what I'm accused of. That's what they do. And I'm going to show you written documentation of them in action doing that. And you wouldn't know it except for somebody like me that has been trained in their law schools points it out. I was pointing it out all along, but it doesn't make any difference. When the governor tells them, you do this, and I don't care how you did it, you know, like Hitler, you do this, I don't care how you get it done, or I will get rid of you the same way I did Charles Van Morgan and make it where you can't get a job. Your reputation is ruined. While you're out risking your life like Vietnam soldiers, your reputation is ruined. And you can't get a job. You don't have medical insurance in your 60s. And pretty much a death sentence almost. There's more than one way to kill somebody. You can put a gun to their head and pull the trigger, which is what they taught us to do in the academy. Of course, they don't want to tell you about that. Or you can defame them when they're out serving the public, actually doing better than any trooper in the state, leading the state in drunk driving arrest. The fatality rate was low, and you can have a supervisor get mad at you, and they can completely turn a circumstance around where you did nothing wrong and defame you, make it where you can't get a job. Yeah, Larry Russell, you did that, you lying creep. And make it to where you can't get a job. And you can even be in law school trying to get away from those people because you know how they are. You got to have a job. You can't just quit your job. I was in law school at the time this happened. I was trying to get out of that THPP bunch of baloney. I knew how dangerous they were. That's why I joined a legal prepaid law for law enforcement to try to protect myself against false accusations. And I was getting them from Larry Russell, lying little Russell. And that's the reason why I even put in for a shift. I did everything I could do to try to protect myself. But that, what I talked about yesterday, the illusion of control, is that people think, well, I could have done better than Charles Van Morgan. No, you couldn't have. Not against the powerful people in government power that have money and pay people to do illegal stuff. And I'll finish the rest of the story. But you know, my professor in sociology at the University of Tennessee, the emphasis was in criminology. And let me tell you about this. His emphasis was in murder for hire. He researched murder for hire. That is where people, and it's a phenomenon that exists to this day, where people pay people to have other people killed. They don't want to do it. They don't have the guts, or they don't want to get caught. So they surreptitiously pay someone else. And every now and then people get caught because they're paying an undercover police officer or something like that. You've seen the deal. And every now and then they get caught. But a lot of times they don't get caught. People pay people to kill people for all kinds of reasons. And the going rate at that time, I'm not sure what it is now. And my professor in sociology, that was his expertise. He studied murder for hire, the causes, and he did studies about it, questionnaires and stuff, and researched that issue to try to obviously help prevent it and the root causes and all. But the going rate back then, when I graduated from University of Tennessee in 2001, to have somebody murdered, and you can find stuff in books and in magazines where they surreptitiously ask you to, what they'll commit a murder for if you read between the lines. Sometimes it's undercover law enforcement. You got to be careful who you're paying. But the going rate then was $1,500. For $1,500 in 2001, you could have somebody murdered and wipe your hands, pay them off and wipe your hands of that. And you probably want to pay somebody that's killed somebody for you. if you know what I mean. That's not funny, but he actually studied that. And, you know, the government, people in government power, they're the same filthy way. They're worse. They're even worse than paid murders for hire, because these people that do their dirty deeds, because the governor orders, you know, this governor, Bill has been the creep that raised your taxes and eliminated his. They literally, in a sense, comparatively, pay for murder for hires. In a different way. They don't put a gun to your head. There's more than one way to kill somebody. You can put a gun to their head and blow their brains out, or, like they did me, they're out risking their life, and this is really sad. They're out risking their life for public safety, making a huge difference by their own admissions. I had excellent evaluations. I got awards on top of awards, and I wasn't doing it for awards. I was doing it long before they gave me awards. I was doing it because I seen little children killed in car wrecks, dead. That affected me. You know, people have the illusion of control. The world's not in control. Bad stuff happens. You try to, you know, I didn't work at a pie factory. You see it happening, and you realize that, hey, you are a government official, and you've got blue lights and siren and the means to stop as much as that as you can. And it's important. It's life or death. So you go after it. I lowered the fatality rate almost single-handedly. Got in trouble a lot for it wrongfully. But the guard changed and my supervisors left, and I got Lionel Russell. And he started bringing complaints against me. And I tried to get off his shift. I even fought back, tried to complain against him. It didn't do any good. And so he didn't put a gun to my head. He defamed me, lying on me, said stuff that was absolutely a lie, and I can prove it, and got me fired, and tried to get me out of law school. I transferred law schools and graduated, and has made it now where I can't even get my law license. That's Lionel Russell, your state legislator now, who was helped out when he had a car wreck. Somebody hit him because he wasn't paying attention. By Lamar Alexander bragged on him. Lamar Alexander, what a great insight he has on people's character. He literally had a man on his staff, Lamar Alexander, that the FBI arrested for having child pornography. And he's the same man that talked about how great Lionel Russell is. I'm just saying that's his insight. Now, I'm not saying Lionel Russell's involved in child pornography. I'm just saying that Lamar Alexander bragged on Lionel Russell. And Lamar Alexander also had somebody, at the time he was bragging on Lionel Russell, that was involved in his political campaign, paid on his staff, that was involved in child pornography. They arrested him at his home. Now, Lamar Alexander fired him immediately, but he's not a very good judge of character, is he? So that's another way they can take your life from you. So let me see how many people on here, and I'll continue the story about the pursuit. Show you evidence of crimes. I'm not just making stuff up. I'll show you written in their record how they lied, and it's provable. Because if you lie, there are things out there that can disprove it. What a tangled web we weave when at first we attempt to deceive. And people in government power lie. But see, it doesn't matter, because they got a judge that'll wipe all that away and stamp the weight of law on stuff that's not true. That's not true. And it puts me now in my 60s without medical insurance. Can't get a job because people think I let somebody burn to death. That's what Lowell Russell did. While he's a dirty liar, he's a creep. The things he did are thuggish. And he's a state representative. I've got a JD. He's a lawmaker and has never been to law school, won't never have to, because people in government power lift people up in high positions that aren't capable of doing their jobs, which is exactly why we have to have the National Guard in Memphis, because we have people in government offices, people on patrol in the United States of America, not all of them, that cannot do their job in law enforcement. So they have to have the National Guard. We wouldn't have needed the National Guard when I was on patrol in Knox County and Union County or Loudon, the counties that I patrolled, because I did my job. But now the level of incompetence has risen so high in the highway patrol that we have to have the National Guard come in and protect Tennesseans, because our state government is full of inept, nepotism, drunks, uneducated people that can't protect you. That's just the truth. Now, you compare that to a football game. Let's see how many people got in here. Okay, almost 400. You compare that to a football game. You compare that to a football game. Now, like, last week, the University of Georgia came to Tennessee, and I'm a Vol fan, but I was born in Georgia, so, go Vols first, but the Dogs are all right in my book. I was born in that state, although I lived in Tennessee. We just went right, my mother just took me right across to the Georgia state line where the closest hospital was. So I never lived there, but I was born in Georgia, lived all my life in Tennessee. So with the exception of a few months, being completely honest. So in the football game, in football, if you hire your daddy's boy to be the quarterback, or you hire somebody, you recruit somebody because of who their daddy is, because of who they know, or political clout, or because they got a lot of money, and you put them on a football field, or you have bad influence on the side of the football field, like the Tennessee Highway Patrol, that guard the coach, that think that you can get promoted to high elevation without earning it because of who you know. You don't have to put in the work. You don't have to get an education. You don't have to even go to the University of Tennessee. You can get promoted. You don't have to know about criminology, causes of crime, and social factors. You don't have to know any of that to be able to benefit society better. All you have to do to get promoted is you have to have a daddy who's your daddy, and we'll go into that more. I'll show you some people that are high up in the Highway Patrol and explain to you exactly why. It's not because they know how to protect you. It's because they don't have to do anything. So my point is that when you have a football team that has bad influence because the troopers on the sideline didn't get promoted because they did any hard work, they didn't have to do anything, and then you have them and they influence football players and they get out on the field and they play a football team, and football's a real life sport where you really have to jump, you really have to run, you really have to hit hard. I like football because it's a pretty violent game, controlled violence, a sport. But I played when I was in high school, when I was in elementary school, and sacked the quarterback so many times I had to put 2 people on me. But I've always excelled in anything I've done, just to put in my plug for myself. But when you have a Georgia football team that doesn't have that kind of stuff, they've got a real coach, and I like Heupel, but he needs to get rid of the UT football player, the THPP patrol officers on the side that are bad influence. But when you have a football team that promotes people and puts people on the field, and they think they don't have to work for scoring touchdowns, and you have another football team that knows they have to work for everything they get, it doesn't matter about being given, and where the rubber meets the road, 2 competitive forces, the team that puts in the work and works the hardest and never gives up is going to win that football game. And the Georgia Highway Patrol, I don't believe, is as bad an influence. So I'm just saying, but back to my story, back to the truth about the pursuit I was in. So the car left, and I'll finish that story later. I just told you the most important part is that I turned on my blue lights immediately. And you can go look at the video and watch me turn on my blue lights. So the Highway Patrol accused me of driving past the wreck, seeing it, and letting somebody burn to death, which makes no sense. Why would I go after somebody and I'm trying to find them, and then I find them and I keep going, and then later when I'm made completely aware where it's at, I do what I can do and risk my life? That's completely, the hoops you got to go through to believe lies are just unreal. Wouldn't it make sense a trooper drove past a wreck off the side of the road because it couldn't have been seen by anyone? He didn't see it, and no one would have seen it. Even another witness on the scene didn't say. That makes sense. But see, and that's the truth. But see, in their courtrooms, They can get a judge to go along with anything. And the reason that's important to you in Tennessee is if they want to come after you, people in government power, if Bill Haslam or Bill Lee want to come after you, they'll get a judge to go along with anything. They'll march in your house and kill you and plant drugs, plant evidence. And you say, well, a judge will straighten that out. No, they won't. The judge will plant more evidence. He'll say, no, it wasn't just a gram of marijuana. It was 10 grams. The judge will add stuff to help them out. Can I get promoted? It was 10 grams, Your Honor, Governor Bill Lee. You lying sack of shit. What happened to your wife? Did you kill her or what happened? Does anybody know about that? I'm just saying, his wife died in a freak accident on his farm. I don't know, but I mean, has that ever been investigated fully? There is another governor that committed murder that the TBI has now after the fact. So we're going to find out after the fact what happened in that case. That should be investigated by outside forces, the federal government. I mean, a murderer might have been standing, I don't know, in the White House next to the president. The president's already called Governor Lee a rhino. He's a dirtbag. He promoted a woman to major over the highway patrol that is stealing valor. You got the National Guard going to Memphis because the highway patrol is so inept. They got a major that claims that she retired from the National Guard. She was never served today, Stacey Heatherly. How do they get that by? Because of power. Power is your ability, the government's ability, people in power's ability to do whatever they want to despite opposition. So, and that's fine if you have powerful, honest people in office, because if you have honest people in office, and the self-proclaimed Christian Bill Lee is not an honest man. He's not by far. He knows that he promoted a liar to high position in the highway patrol, appointed position by him. Stood right next to the president. What a disgrace. She's over a major in the highway patrol. Can't the highway patrol go down there and make people safe in Memphis? No, hell no. You know why? Because she doesn't have a doctor of jurisprudence. She doesn't have a master of arts in criminology. She doesn't have anything. They give them that, but they're inept. And if you put them on a football field, they get slaughtered by the other team. And they don't care because they're not getting slaughtered. Tennesseans are getting slaughtered because of their lies and because they're inept. So what we need to do is don't fall into the trap of violence. Vote them out. So they lied under oath to get it through a court system that I saw a baby is what they claim, although it was an adult man. And he's the victim. I wasn't involved in his party. I saw a man, knew he was burning to death, and intentionally left the scene. And that's a lie. That's a dirty lie. I've said that numerous times, but it doesn't matter. They got the power to say, no, a judge not only put the weight of law, and I'll show you in the record how a THP sergeant lied under oath conclusively. There's no question he lied. He added evidence, wasn't there? And not did the judge not point it out. The judge went on to add evidence. The judge said that I should have seen the car because there was a tail light on the car. That was in his opinion. Look at the video. Go look at the video. It's on YouTube. I've slowed it down. Took snapshots of it the whole way. There's no tail lights on the car. He lied. He added evidence. The judge not only backed up perjury, that's not perjury with the judge, but he added evidence too. That's not evidence tampering. That's making up evidence. And then this is important too. When we get down to the bridge, it gets a little daylight. I'll show you that. This is important too. I did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. A man was drunk, 0.2 something alcohol level, killed himself. And which is sad. I tried to save him. I risked my life to save somebody that did something to themselves. Because I don't want to point that out. You know, 3 other officers died in 2011 in pursuits. I could have been killed, but nobody, the highway patrol doesn't care about that. Listen to that, troopers. They don't care if you get killed. If they want to get rid of you, they'll get rid of you. If you get killed and they wanted to get rid of you anyway, they'll be glad, because that's how dirty and sick those people are. So now here's what happened. That happened in, and this is important, hang with me. That happened in the court hearing happened in at 2014, I believe, 2013 or 2014, where the THP Sergeant Terrell, I'll show you a picture of his lying ass, lied under oath, was even questioned about it. I'll show you where he swore that he would tell the truth. And then he went on to lie, and he was even questioned about his lie, and he stuck to his lie under oath. And the judge said, wouldn't even let my attorney question him, said stop questioning him about his lie, pretty much. And said he would decide who was lying, me or the sergeant that was trying to get me fired, take the leading DUI arrester off the road. That Sergeant Terrell never made any drunk driving arrest, I bet. A worthless piece of dung that didn't arrest anybody and get me off the road. Their internal affairs unit is set up to get rid of people that they don't want, especially me. I made them look bad. Other troopers on the road couldn't do what I did because they got promoted because their daddy didn't know what they was doing, didn't have experience, education, or knowledge, and didn't want to get out and do their job. They just want to drive around patrol cars drunk and collect their check. And when you got somebody out showing the public what can be done by a trooper, that they can actually lower the fatality rate, they can be on their way to jail and arrest another drunk driver on their way to jail to protect the public so they won't run over you and your family. I did that several times in compliance with their policy. They don't want troopers out cleaning up the roads. They want their boys out there, and they want people that'll kiss the ring. So that happened in January 2012. They terminated the court. The court hearing was in March, I think, of 2014. And the reason that matters to you, the reason this matters to you is I'm telling you how dangerous the government is. They didn't just affect me, they affected you, because the fatality rate is 45% higher right now. And it's never going to go down. It's even dangerous for them. Major Stacy Headley got hit by a drunk driver that she caused. So let me see how many people on here will finish the story, and I'll tell you why this is important. I'll tell you what another trooper did in a pursuit that got an innocent person killed that they covered up and lied about. And you wouldn't believe the spin in their lives. And an innocent person was killed because the trooper didn't follow the law and follow simple procedures. 411, the pursuit policy. Trooper John Pedigo should be in jail, but he's still on patrol. They gave him a life-saving award. I'll tell you what he did. How an innocent person was killed. A 17-year-old killed. And so let me see how many people got in here. I'm going to tell you about that and compare that to my pursuit. So yeah, we got a bunch of people in here. Thank y'all so much. So, been on here about 40 minutes already. Thank y'all. This many people in here. I appreciate it. So, this matters to you because I'm explaining from a sociological, scientific perspective how dirty the government is and how dangerous they are to you and how we need to get a social movement together. Voters enraged, and if you're in Tennessee, voters of Tennessee enraged, and when we win, voters of Tennessee encouraged. And I'm just telling you facts, showing you. Now this is dangerous. People in government power are crooked as hell. They don't come to you and shoot you in the head. The people that are ultimately responsible behind the scenes do it like a sniper would, from a distance, far away, using other people to destroy you, destroy your reputation, destroy your future, destroy your career, destroy your education, to make it dangerous for you in society. I've been attacked, threatened, because of Tracy Trots. Tracy Trots to the bathroom is what I call him. And the dirty commissioner over the Department of Safety. And they got another dirty one right now. So anybody associated with the Haslams, crooked as hell. This university over here. You know, I love the university, but look who they got on the sidelines. So, John Pedigo, in August of the same year, they fired me. Now they fired me and ruined my reputation. Lowell Russell did that. Now Lowell Russell, Lowell Russell, how you doing, Lowell? How you doing? You and your little You and your little brother. I didn't have a brother. I learned to fight by myself, boy. I'm still here, boy. I'm not violent. I'm speaking the truth to power. You got power, but you don't deserve it. Your ass ought to be in jail, boy. You dirty, rotten scoundrel. You think I'm afraid of you? I won't shut up till this heart starts beating. Right here. And I won't hurt you. It'd be wrong to snipe you. I wouldn't do that. I'm not the creep you are. I'm not the dirty, rotten slime that would do what you did to my children even. And you can straighten it out. We'll talk until you straighten it out. You got hell to pay, boy. You got hell to pay. Because it won't go away. It won't go away. I don't care who you are. You got that, boy? You made a mistake. You made a bad mistake, Lionel Russell, when you messed with me. You got that? I'm not violent. I'm not threatening violence. I'm telling the truth about you, boy. All over the United States of America. In other countries are hearing about Lionel Russell. The legislator, lawmaker, doesn't have any legal education that makes laws against Tennesseans. That's you, Lowell. How many people on here am I broadcasting that to, you dirty, rotten piece of scum? You know what Lowell did? Here's what Lowell did. I risked my life that night. Lowell Russell, and I'll tell you about how the other trooper killed somebody. Lowell Russell was in a dispatch office, and his brother that got promoted because of cronyism by the piece of shit Colonel Tracy Trotz. And I'm telling y'all, this matters to you. This is how dirty the government is. Life-threatening to you, not just me. I was a public servant. And doing what I was doing for you. These people are public criminals. And they're worse than regular criminals because of the fact that they are sworn to uphold the law. A regular thug out here, even that man that killed himself in that wreck that was drunk, he didn't swear to uphold the law and not get drunk and obey the rules, even though he has to as a citizen. But he didn't swear to uphold the law. Hello? He swore. He didn't swear anything. Lowell Russell, Tracy Trotz, Major Stacy Heatherly, that's lying on me in their academy class to this day. Wow. I'm still out here too. I'm telling the truth to the world. You can lie. I'm telling the truth. The truth has more weight than your dirty lie. Major, you think I'll kiss your ring? I'll spread the word to the world of how much of a creep you are. Have to have the National Guard come in and do your job because you can't do it. And you even claim to be retired from the National Guard. And the governor knows about that. And he's not doing anything about it because of power. He shouldn't have power. He shouldn't have. He ought to be investigated. The governor ought to go to jail. Both Bill Haslam ought to have his ass in jail for crimes committed against humanity. And also Governor Bill Lee. Do you have anybody else saying that? And if they put me in jail or hurt me, you know who did it. You know who did it. They're protesters against me. I'm just telling the truth. This is our government. It's not theirs. Don't belong to crooks. Don't belong to people that raise their hand and swear to protect the public and honor the Constitution and then go out and lie. They're worse than thugs that aren't in government office. So that's what Lowell Russell did. He went to the house of the man, God rest his soul, that lost his life, made a mistake, and it's a social problem as much as maybe a criminal problem more, but it's a social problem too. People influenced him to drink at a party that never got charged. Went to the man's house that lost his son and told that man, well, I could have been killed. I was in a high-speed pursuit after dark. Three other troopers were killed. They don't care about you troopers. And he went to the man's house, gave him a, quote, death notification where surreptitiously he was coming to stoke up a fire against me, because this is what a creep he is. Sits in a government office. He's a creep. He went and told the man that the trooper had done something wrong. Inflamed that man that just lost his son, telling him a lie when I hadn't done anything wrong. And Lowell Russell did that. The same state legislature that kicked people out of the government House of Representatives when people that got their children killed in the school shooting in Nashville. Some of them were clapping, and Lowell Russell and all his power and authority that he uses for his nasty self. I'd hate to be you when I meet God. The people that you caused to get killed. Taking the leading trooper, arrester of DUI off the road, lying about him, the dirty stuff you've done. How do you live with yourself? I think God punished him pretty good when he put a truck right in the back of him and took him off the road too. And I would have helped him. I wasn't for that. I'm not glad that happened. God works in mysterious ways, doesn't he, Lowell? How's that neck? And I wouldn't have done that to him. I would have helped him. But I wish he hadn't done what he did. He did wrong to me. I never mistreated him one time. So what happened later anyway, and when it gets a little daylight, I'm going to show you a little evidence, their own evidence. So see how many people we have here, and I'll tell you how Trooper John Pedigo, that's on the road today, was in a pursuit pretty close to mine. Mine happened in November of 2011. His happened in August of 2012. And it wasn't the driver, the person that was running, that got killed. And I'll show you how they flipped it. It was an innocent person, John Pedigo, and they gave him a lifesaver award for having a juvenile killed. So we'll tell you about what happened in that and how they lied and broke the law. He broke the law and he ought to be in jail. And some other stuff John Pedigo done. And he's still on the road today. He's still on the road today. Dangerous to you. Has never been disciplined or corrected. Should have been in jail. But let's see how many people got in here. When it gets a little daylight, I'll show you that evidence. And I'm going to finish the story about John Pedigo. What a inept, dangerous man you are, Trooper Pedigo. You lowlife. So here we go. Yeah, we got almost 300 people in here. Wow, man, this is awesome. Thank y'all. May God bless y'all. So I'm telling you about how the government is dirty as hell. How they will kill you. And the courts and the government back it up and keep dangerous people on the road and get rid of lifesavers. I got lifesaver awards before Lion Little Russell come along and his Sergeant Corey Russell. I wonder how that happened. You think that's a little bit of nepotism? Does he have a Master of Arts in Criminology? Does he know anything? Has he read any books about how to keep people safer in Madisonville, in the area he patrols? No. And he's got people fooled. Even some of my dumb uncles, at least one of them that's not a very good man, votes for those creeps. A lot of people are fooled. Don't be fooled by these people. I'm not. So John Pedigo was on patrol on 4/11, August of 2012. A few months after they took my job from me, I was still appealing, trying to get it back. And even before, they lied in court on me and lied in paperwork and covered up for him. So he was going down 411 early in the morning because he had the day shift. He sees a car speeding down the road on 411 and clocks his speeding on his radar. Now I'll stop right there. I'm going to tell you the difference between me and him and what they covered up for him and how they lied on me. So, so he was on patrol, seen a guy speeding, and turns around on him and goes in pursuit of him. And they don't have any video of that when he did that, because when he made a maneuver to pursue the person, which is turning around on the guy, he's going the opposite direction, speeding, he turns around on the guy, and the guy's a felon, so he sees I'm sure he's seen the trooper turn around on him, so he speeds up trying to elude the trooper. Trooper John Pedigo doesn't turn on any emergency equipment. Violation of state law, violation of department policy, very dangerous to the public. Because the reason, and I knew this, that's why I did it, the reason that you turn on all your emergency equipment is for several reasons. One of them, and you can look at the video where they fired me, I didn't endanger anybody, didn't do anything wrong. It was complete safety, didn't hit anybody, didn't wreck, didn't do nothing. The only person that got killed was the person who was driving at a high rate of speed, that refused to stop, that was drunk, that slammed into a tree, that I lost sight of it, slammed into a tree that wrecked in such a manner that I couldn't determine in a night, not when they're off the road in the dark. But he turned around on a speeder, didn't obey the law, didn't turn on any emergency equipment. Look at my video. You can see before I even turn around, light up everything. The reason for that is that it lets everybody else know that there's a problem. There's a speeder, that's a problem. It's not like a serious problem sometimes, but that there's a situation going on, and that you're going to go over the speed limit and not violate the law, but you're not allowed to go over the speed limit or break the law unless you have your emergency equipment on, and all of it. So I'll finish this story. Let me see how many people got on here. It's almost daylight. We'll show you the evidence. So he turns around on the car without initiating any emergency equipment and goes after the car. This is in 411. And interestingly enough, if you type my name in Google, and this is how the state government even controls Google, controls the state media, controls the narrative. They won't let you think for yourself. If you type my name in Google, Charles Van Morgan, one of the first things that comes up is their lies. I know it was a lie. I was there. I seen it happen myself. I know what happened. I did nothing wrong. I could have been killed. Nobody cares about that. Another eyewitness on the scene said the same thing that I said. They didn't see anything. I'll show you that. She says 6 times that she couldn't see anything. It was dark, just like me. But Sergeant Terrell Johnson says, well, from her perspective, she was right there by Andersonville Pike, right there by the wreck. That was a real good perspective, but they don't care about that. They rig it. But John Pedigo turns around on this woman. And if you type in John Pedigo's name in Google, even though I'm fixing to tell you the truth about him, super for defamation, it's the truth, it's the damn truth. In their courts, they might get a ruling for defamation because they've already got a false ruling for trying to take my guns away while I was campaigning for a social order protection that was a dirty lie from a dirty judge down here that threatened to put one of my witnesses in jail. But I have no money anyway. They ain't nothing I can get. When you got somebody, you took everything away from them, they ain't got nothing left to do but fight law. I ain't got my reputation. My reputation can't do anything but up. Your reputation is false. You're a dirty creep liar. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You ought to be pitied. You ought to be behind bars. So, I ain't got no money they can't take. I don't have prospects for a job because they've ruined my reputation. Can't get my law license. Well, Russell don't have to have a law license. He's a lawmaker. That ought to be embarrassing to you. How do you feel about that? Go up there and make laws and never did anything to study how to make them. Isn't that kind of shameful? Yeah, you're kind of an idiot, aren't you? A butthead, but anyway. And his brother, what does he know about law? He's a sergeant with this. What a prime example of how you ought to be. Yeah, you ought to be honest. You ought to go out and do your job and protect the public like you swore to do, but they won't do it. But John Pedigo turns around on this guy that's speeding, and I know he had to see him because the guy speeds up, and John Pedigo's in pursuit of him down the road, but he doesn't have any emergency equipment on. And one of the reasons for emergency equipment, you're warning everybody else there's trouble. And you have to because you're going over the speed limit, and you're going to be driving where you need to warn people to get out of the way. And you're also warning the public there's a problem going on. Somebody's driving dangerously fast, and you're audio and visual warning. So you're letting them know with a siren, and you're letting them know with the blue lights that there's a speeder up ahead or whatever problem it is, and you're going to it, and you need to pay attention, and it alerts people. It makes them, hey, what's going on? There's something wrong, and it makes them wake up and pay attention. Smell the coffee. So John Pedigo turns around, doesn't have any warning to anybody on God's green earth, just turns around in pursuit of a violator or suspected violator of the law without complying with the law, not warning people there's a problem of going after a speeder. I did. Look at that video I was in. Immediately warning people. I was safe to everybody. Even slowed down, almost stopped at a red light because I didn't want to hit an innocent person. And that made him have a bigger lead on me. It was part of the reason why I didn't see the wreck, because I was being safe. They don't care about being safe. They care about protecting their flunkies, people that kissed the ring. John Pedigo didn't make me drunk driving arrested. John Pedigo didn't like me because I made him look bad. Now, John Pedigo went after the guy. And you think, well, that's okay that he did that. Policemen do that all the time. That's not okay. Because bad stuff can happen when you don't follow the rules, because the rules are usually well thought out, because they're made to prevent bad things from happening. Like if you're in a pursuit during the daytime, you can't pursue through a school zone. They tell you don't pursue through a school zone. You're supposed to break it off because you don't want to hit little children. And the pursuit policy to turn on all your emergency equipment is to warn the public. So anyway, he's going down 411, full emergency equipment on. There's no full emergency equipment on, violating the law, turned around on him. So he's in pursuit because he made a maneuver to go after the guy. So he's going after him. No warning to anybody. The guy goes down the road, running from Trooper Pedigo, that doesn't have any emergency equipment on, crosses the double yellow line, and a girl that's 17, that doesn't have any warning for Pedigo. He didn't, if he had his blue lights on and siren, the lady might have looked up and seen somebody coming toward her and got out of the way. But Trooper Pedigo didn't have any emergency equipment on. And they lie about that. See, why didn't this come out? Because if you type my name in Google, you'll see the first thing that come up, you'll see that one of them, I was involved in a wreck where they lied on me. If you type Trooper Pedigo's name in Google, it'll come up that he received a life-saving award. What about what I'm telling you about? That don't come up. Why is that? Yeah, you want to listen to what they say, or you don't listen to what I'm telling you? I know I worked with John Pedigo. I know how inept he was. I'm going to tell you some other things about what he did. I wasn't inept. I had high evaluations. Trooper Pedigo got somebody killed. He didn't have his emergency equipment on. That 17-year-old did not have any warning that he was in pursuit of that car. That's the reason why the guy sped up, went over the W lines, and killed an innocent 17-year-old. If I was John Pedigo, I'd have trouble living with myself. Had he obeyed the law and turned around and before he even turned around, had he turned on his emergency equipment, and then when he was in pursuit of the car with his blue lights and siren on, I'm telling you, this happened in August 2012. You won't find it in the papers. I'm telling you what happened now, and it happened. I'll tell you it happened. And this is what happened. They covered it up, though. But had he had on his emergency equipment, before he turned around, should have turned on his emergency equipment, like I did, look at the video, and then went after the guy like he was supposed to for speeding. And then when the guy took off even faster, Pedigo would have been behind him with his emergency equipment on, blue lights and siren, and then the lady going the opposite direction from the guy him and the guy he was pursuing, unlawfully, I might add. And then had he had on his emergency equipment, she might have had a second to say, hey, what's going on here? Seen that guy coming over and got out of the way. But she had no warning because Trooper Pedigo didn't warn her. And that was an innocent person that died in a pursuit from John Pedigo. About a few months after the pursuit I was in, where I did everything right. Didn't do anything wrong. Had all my emergency equipment on. Wasn't able to see somebody off the road in the dark because I was looking for him down the road. So, and then you say, well, why didn't he get in trouble for that? I'll tell you why he didn't get in trouble for that. Because the state highway patrol didn't want to go after him, so they lied for him. Fatter, the captain over the highway patrol at that time, that went after me, lied on me, defamed me. How you doing, Fatter? Yeah, I'm still having trouble getting a job. You okay in your state retirement? People paying you for covering up a trooper's having somebody killed by his ineptness. She said that Trooper Pedigo was not in pursuit. He made a maneuver to turn around, was after the guy. So he was in pursuit. So that's, how do you say that he was in, he didn't have anything to do with that when he's behind him trying to apprehend him and he don't have any emergency? Oh, he wasn't in pursuit. Yeah, he was in pursuit. That's why the guy sped up and killed a woman. He just didn't do it. He just didn't comply with the law. He violated a clear law. And they lied for him. Later on, they convinced the man's family, their family, that instead of disciplining John Pedigo for being out on the road acting ineptly, contributing to a 17-year-old innocent person in a pursuit get killed, they convinced the lady that it was the felon's fault for running, and it was, but the trooper had a responsibility too to abide by the law and warn people that the felon was dangerous and he was in pursuit of him, which he was. He pulled up on the wreck. He made a maneuver to go after him. He clocked him speeding. So they lied to cover up the crimes of John Pedigo. And later on, they gave him a life-saving award. For another incident, convinced the guy's family that the 17-year-old was killed, convinced her, it was a young lady, that should have had a warning from Pedigo. How he lives with himself, I don't know. I turned on my blue lights before I went in pursuit of people, warning people. I cared about the public. That's what it was about. I did my job, but Trooper Pedigo was lazy, and I'll tell you why he didn't do that, because he did it in other instances when I'd hear him on the radio. Got in trouble for doing the same thing. But he didn't comply with the law, and they convinced the man's family, the young lady's family, that the felon was 100%, that the trooper did nothing wrong, and what they did was they got longer sentences for felons because of a trooper's ineptness, so that now they keep felons in jail longer because they're concerned they'll run from law enforcement and kill people. So now they've changed the law to where convicted felons have to stay in jail longer, blaming it all on the felon, which was his fault. He shouldn't have ran. But what about the trooper that broke the law, that had a duty to obey the law, that contributed to that? They didn't do anything about public safety as far as that's concerned. So that's how they manipulate things. Trooper Pedigo, one night when I was on patrol, I heard him on the radio keying up his mic, and this is how the troopers got out of doing paperwork. When you go in pursuit of somebody, you're supposed to call 1099 immediately when you're trying to apprehend them and they're not stopping. You realize they're not stopping. They speed up or don't make any effort to pull over and make a maneuver to elude. Then you go call 1099. That lets the dispatcher know, and they notify a supervisor. The supervisor on duty is supposed to monitor the pursuit so that if it gets too dangerous, they have to have a reason they can call it off. They can tell the trooper, supervisor can say, discontinue, terminate the pursuit. And they're supposed to listen. The trooper's supposed to call out his speed, the charges, and direction of travel. And that's per policy, and have on all his emergency equipment. Well, what happens is troopers don't want to do all the paperwork because there's the pursuit package you got to do when you get pursuit of people, and the supervisor has to fill out a pursuit policy. Pursuits are dangerous, so they're highly regulated and looked at. So what Trooper Pedigo would do is say that he's trying to catch up to a car. So he would be in pursuit of a car. He wouldn't say 1099 in pursuit. He would say, I'm trying to catch up to a car. He chased the car for several minutes one night, saying he was trying to catch up to him. He wasn't trying to catch up to him. He was in pursuit of him. He didn't want to say 1099 because he didn't want to give out his charges, direction of travel, have the pursuit policy. And the sergeant on shift, Sergeant Bobby Clevenger, told him to call in a pursuit. You know, you're in pursuit of that car, and it made him come in after he lost sight of the car and to do a pursuit package. That's just another incident where he didn't even want to call in a pursuit. Trooper John Pedigo, and this is somebody still on the road today, got a life-saving award. He's a lifesaver. In the academy, they teach you that, and I went to 3, they teach you, graduated from them, they teach you that car wrecks aren't always what they seem. Sometimes they can be a murder. Somebody murders somebody, put them in a car, run them off a hill to make a murder look like a car wreck. So be aware of that. It happens. Might be a murder for hire. Somebody kills somebody, beats them over the head with a bat, puts them in a car, runs them off a hill. Law enforcement shows up. If you're paying attention, there are signs when it is a wreck or when the person was maybe dead before they ever got in the car. Like when their head is beat in and the car's not flipped or anything, just run down a hill. That kind of damage don't happen to a car going down a hill without overturning and everything. There's blood all over the car. But Pedigo went to a wreck in Blount County and worked the wreck. A car went off the road, a fatality, and worked it as a wreck. She died due to impact from the wreck. Her head was beat in, blood all over the car, more damage than what would have happened a car going off a hill. Obviously, not a fatal wreck. Something happened more than that. Instead of calling in CERT or calling the sheriff's department or calling investigators or calling a supervisor to the scene, Pedigo was not paying attention to his job. The same one that later went on to not even turn on his blue lights in a pursuit, worked that as a wreck, a fatality wreck, where somebody went off a hill and it killed them, which it wasn't. It was a week before the family looked at the evidence and they said, this is not, she didn't die from the wreck, she's been murdered, her head's beat in. They found a baseball bat with blood on it, where she had been murdered before the wreck. But Pedigo worked it as a wreck, a fatal wreck. Didn't work it as a homicide. It was a homicide. The suspect had a week, and I don't think they've ever been caught, to elude law enforcement because Pedigo halted the investigation for a whole week. Didn't work it as a wreck. So that's another thing, John Pedigo. He's still on the road today as a Tennessee state trooper, and you know, one of their finest. And that's the reason why they have to call the National Guard. That's the reason why they have to call the National Guard in Memphis, because we got fine officers in Memphis with the State Highway Patrol, and stand on the sidelines with the UT Police Department and the State Highway Patrol standing on the sidelines inept that cause people to get killed. So we're going to get off here in just a second. I'm going to show you the evidence I promised y'all, where I'm going to show you that Trooper Sergeant Terrell Johnson, who was now a captain, get promoted for lying, lied under oath. So let me show you how many people got in here. Well, we got a bunch. Thank y'all, man. About 300 people. We're blowing this up. So let me show you the evidence here of how the THPP lies under oath. And the judge backs it up. So we got some documents here. Pull out the proof. So this is Terrell Johnson. Sergeant Terrell Johnson. Line perjurer Terrell Johnson. Right there he is. Captain now. He was sergeant when he lied on me. Terrell Johnson just graduated from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Wow. What a good age. So we're excited about the training he received. So he did learn how to lie better. Implement his skills. Congratulations. What a liar. So he lied on me when he was a sergeant. He's a liar, a perjurer. Right there he is, Sergeant Terrell Johnson. How you doing, Sergeant Terrell Johnson? How's it feel to make the fatality rate higher in the state of Tennessee because you're a dirty liar? You lied under oath. You raised your hand. I'll tell the truth, swear to tell the truth, so help my God. And then you went on to lie. And even my lawyer, you pointed out, hey, that's a lie. That's not true. And you stuck to your lie. That's who you are, Terrell Johnson. You know, one day you'll meet God for that lie. And meet me, because I was raised without a dad. I'll fight you to hell and back, not like you do. I'm not dirty. I'm telling the truth about you. So here you go. Look at this right here. Now this is his supervisor, Captain Donahoe. Right there's Captain Donahoe. Yeah, he moved on to be assistant commissioner over the Highway Patrol. Wow, look at that, Captain Donahoe. Let me show you what Captain Donahoe did. Let me turn the light on here so you can see. Captain Donahoe. Yeah, Captain Donahoe. What he did is, that's his supervisor. He was captain at the time. He went on to be captain. He went on to be captain with the Department of second in command at the Criminal Investigation Division. Let me put my sign over here so people can see it. Live now. We'll show this live now. People can see it. Yeah, there we go. So anyway, anywho. So he retired now, but that's his supervisor. That was Sergeant Johnson's supervisor. So he knew about his perjury. He was in the hearing where he committed perjury, and he still let him lie under oath. That's the Tennessee Piss Patrol. So here's Sergeant Johnson. Here's this guy right here. Here's Sergeant Johnson. They'll do this to you too. That's Sergeant Johnson. How you doing, Sergeant Johnson? Now here's what he said under oath. He said, Sergeant Robert Johnson was called as a witness, and after being duly sworn, testifies as follows. So Sergeant Johnson was sworn, sworn under oath, wasn't he? He was under oath. Wow. When you're under oath, you're supposed to tell the damn truth, aren't you? Let's see if he tells the truth. He's under oath trying to get me fired for doing nothing wrong. Led the state in drunk driving arrest. Let's see if I can prove in the record, now Captain at THP, if he lies or not. Let's see. Okay. And that's a supervisor. Now we'll try to get through this. Let's look at this first differently. First, now they accuse me of saying something I didn't swear to under oath, and they take something completely out of context and say that I wasn't really trying to save that young man. And record me surreptitiously where I didn't swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, help me God. And I wasn't talking about what happened on the scene. I was talking to supervisors, talking about how we're trained. You're trained to, even if you know somebody's dead, you still call an ambulance because you have to, because you don't know that, even though you know. So, and also in my training, they had the firearms instructor, Major Prince, told us in our academy class, and they didn't record this, if you can't shoot somebody in the head, then you need to leave the class. Did they want that put out to the world? A major, he was a captain at the time, saying if you can't shoot somebody in the head, then you don't need to be a Tennessee State Trooper. And what he's talking about was like if you're in a fight with somebody and they're about to kill you, then you need to be able to protect yourself. If that's the way he put it, that's a blunt way to put that you got to be able to protect yourself, whatever you have to do in your life. But so, you know, everything every cop says that's not under oath is not something he would testify to, and it taken in context, and they took out of context. And I testified that's a hindsight view of that incident over a month later. On the scene, I was trying to put out the fire and save somebody's life. That's what I testified to. When I was notified it was under oath, but they take something completely out of context. So I wasn't under oath. Put that out all over the news media, endanger my life. But let's look at what Sergeant Terrell Johnson said when he was warned that you're under oath. And look at my actions that night were to put out the fire. Now this is after I was under oath. Knowing that what I say, if they can prove it's a lie, I'm subject to criminal charges. And what they said about me, it was an interview, was secretly reporting part of the conversation. And no guarantee warning, even a guarantee warning. And they put out stuff I said that wasn't even, I didn't even get a guarantee warning. I had no idea they were going to use stuff like I was swearing to in a court of law and not even playing the whole tape on the radio, just played a little part of it. So that's what they did to me. But Sergeant Johnson, by comparison, captain now, because he got promoted a line, was under oath. He raised his hand. They didn't even give me a guarantee warning about stuff they put out. So Sergeant Johnson says right here, is it fair to say that y'all were pretty hard on Miss Morgan's interview? No, it's not fair to say. That's what he lied about. Sergeant Cockrell says, I know we have been pretty hard on you. So he lied. So he lied. They even admitted in the interview, but he forgot that they were pretty hard on me because he didn't want to present that image to the judge. Want to present a fake image. So he was asked about the testimony of the other eyewitness on the scene that seen the wreck. He was asked about that testimony, and what he said about that was that was from her perspective, from her viewpoint. She didn't see anything. And Sergeant Johnson was asked, well, the witness on the scene says 6 times she didn't see anything. And he says, well, from her viewpoint in the statement says right there by Andersville Pike. So that's another lie. But let's look at his biggest lie. Hello? Zombies. So let's look at his biggest lie. His biggest lie was Mr. Parks, in this document, Mr. Parks, and the difference in my mind, Judge, is that Sergeant Johnson continually represents to Mr. Morgan that he should be clear to Mr. Morgan that the car was on fire from all those going to contradict the facts in this case. But it is important, he continually tells Mr. Morgan the car's on fire, the car's on fire, the car's on fire. When Mr. Morgan continues to say it wasn't. So now we're left, all of a sudden, we're left with the first time that there is an admission from Mr. Morgan that, yes, in fact, the car was on fire. But I never made that admission. Tell me this, how that's sneaking. If that doesn't appear in the statement, it won't be considered by. Okay, so what Sergeant Johnson testified to under oath is that he sat down with me before the interrogation and we watched the video of the pursuit together, and he's saying that wasn't on the record, but me and him watched the video of the pursuit, and that while I was sitting with him talking, and it wasn't recorded, while me and him sat down watching the video, that I admitted that there was fire on the car, that I seen it in the video, because he was wanting me to admit that there was fire on the car. And I never sat down with Sergeant Johnson and watched the video. He made that up. Of course, that's not on the record, but he made that up, so he lied about that under oath. So it says here, the line of questioning is that makes a very critical statement. He sat down with my client and watched the video. My client says that is not true. So to the extent that this investigation substandard is something that's critical, he doesn't record that. That's not a reflection in any document or deposition in this case that has been going on for years. So here's what he says. The line of questioning is that he makes a very critical statement, this Sergeant Johnson, that he sat down with my client and watched the video. My client says that's not true. So the extent that his investigation is substandard, something that is not critical, he doesn't record that. That's not a reflection of my document or deposition in the case. That has been going on for years. And the judge backs him up. I have to ask you, what difference does it make if they watch the video together, if they watch it separately? You know, at some point they watch the video. But the difference it makes is because he's lying under oath, and he's trying to make it say that I said something that I never said. So he lied under oath, and let's look at this. I think you've done all you can do. Let me just make something clear. My decision about what happens with Mr. Morgan in his career is based on the evidence I hear today. These depositions, to going to read all the evidence that I put together, that I gleaned from the evidence I've heard, not what he says happened because he wasn't there. He doesn't know what happened. All their witnesses doing is putting together a recommendation, or not a recommendation, putting together an assessment of facts that sent up the chain of command, and somebody along the chain of command made a decision to fire this officer. Yeah, dirty Judge Lefevre. Yeah, beating up the witness, continued to ask him the questions. So the judge is protecting a perjurer. Judge Lefevre is protecting somebody that's committing perjury under oath. So we've been going about an hour and a half here. We'll continue. And my attorney keeps asking him if that happened. And he lies under oath. I don't think he's going to change his answer because he hasn't answered it. Court, he answered your question, move on to another question. See, the judge is protecting the perjurer. when he admitted to you that he saw that car that was on fire when he passed it, what did you do? So he's saying, I admitted to him that I saw the car that I passed, right here. Well, when he admitted to you that he saw that the car was on fire when he passed it, what did you do? So he's saying, I admitted the car was on fire when I passed it, that we had a meeting together. And he says there was nothing at that, this sergeant, there was nothing at that point. It was recognized after the fact. He still maintained that he did not see it. So again, we're stuck in the same place. He did not see it the night of the incident. Whether he acknowledged it the day of the interview, he still doesn't acknowledge that he sees it the night before. So you just take the information, you move on, you look for documentation or records that would support or refute testimony. So he says, I didn't observe the vehicle that night. My question is not he saw the night of the incident, whether or not he looked at it. My question is, did he acknowledge to you, or watching the video with him, yes, he passes the car as in fact on fire? How did he acknowledge the day of the interview that the vehicle was on fire and looks bad, however he did not pass it that night? Did he acknowledge in the interview that the vehicle was on fire? And then the judge, Your Honor, this been asked and answered. Mr. Parks, he answered the same question at least a dozen times, and he did the same thing half a dozen times. During the interview, you acknowledged to him that he saw the same thing everybody else saw. He didn't see it. Time this, he drove past it without recognizing it, but when he viewed the tape, like everybody else in the room, he saw it. Okay. The point I'm getting to is that Sergeant Johnson said that I sat down with him and watched the tape. Well, now let's go through it and see if you made note of the interview you did with Mr. Morgan when y'all watched the video. And I will add, for the record, it's common practice that, here's what it said. We show a video, we're not really on the record, we're just looking at the video, and that has been common practice several times, myself and another employee, that I was interviewing the review video and that we just move on, so it might not be documented that we watched it. So Sergeant Johnson is saying that me and him sat down and watched the video. Who else was in the room with you when you watched the video, Mr. Morgan? Sergeant Ron Crockwell, Captain Victor Donahoe. Hello. And then Miss Martin says that it's in the record that I sat down with him and watched the video. It's not in the record that I sat down and watched the video. Let me show you what's in the record. So Sergeant Johnson says, you can see it very clearly there, that me and him sat down the day of the interview and watched the video of the pursuit. And that I admitted when we sat down and watched the interview that didn't happen, that I seen the car off the side of the road on fire. And that's what he says during the interview. Mr. Parks even says, well, can you direct me to where it says they watched the video with Sergeant Johnson? He's talking about the transcript of the interview where they interviewed me. That Sergeant Johnson says when they interrogated me, that we watched the video, and that I admitted to him during the unrecorded part that we watched the video. Well, can you direct me to where he says that they watched the video with Sergeant Johnson? See, I never watched it, so he's lying under oath, trying to get something to the courtroom. So, well, let's go through it and see if you made note of this interview you did with Mr. Morgan when y'all watched the video. And I will add, for the record, it's common practice that when we show a video, we're not really on the record, we're just looking at the video. Of course, it's not on the record because it didn't happen. So he's saying that we did something that's not even on the record. But let's look at what the record shows. When you look at the record, it might show that not only that it's not in the record, but it's actually in the record that we didn't, that he's committing perjury. So here we go. Here's what the record shows. Here's what the record shows. As far as what Sergeant Johnson said, and I'm going to show you what the judge said. Now, here's what the record shows. So, let me read you that. And this is the judge right here. This is the judge that's helping somebody commit perjury. And this is what they do to you in Tennessee. administrative law judge, Randall LaFavor. Please note for your records that in this case has been administratively reassigned agent docket time Y. So there was another judge assigned, and this judge was reassigned. Why? They're rigging a judge. It says, please note for your records that this case has been administratively reassigned from agent's docket to mine. So it was reassigned from one judge to LaFavor, Randall LaFavor. And you've seen how he's backing up the liar. How does that happen? I mean, that's signed by him. It's reassigned. So they reassigned a judge. They got him a crooked judge to do whatever they wanted to say. So we'll go past this and show you in the record where Sergeant Johnson lied under oath and perjured himself, and the record shows that. Okay, here it is. It says, today is December 14, 2000, approximately 12:04. I'm Sergeant Terrell Johnson with the Internal Investigation. We are in the Cooper conference room. In the room, we have Trooper Morgan. Is that correct, Van? Okay, so this is where this is the interview that he's talking about, that he says me and him sat down before this interview and had watched the video that I said I seen fire on the car. This is that interview that he's referring to. He says that before that interview took place, that we sat down and watched the video. He testified to that under oath. Now look what he says here. So when you lie, there's stuff that can uncover your lie. Now they're saying you can tell in the interview that me and him sat together and watched it because from the record. Well, the record doesn't show we sat down and watched it. The record shows the exact opposite, that Terrell Johnson, captain now, lied under oath. So here's what the record says. Okay, we're going to briefly explain to you today. We're just here to discuss the pursuit that you were involved in November 26th in the early morning hours. Before we get started, though, what we need to do, we'll have you give the admonish right, and it's a form and self-explanatory. I ask you to read it over. If you have any questions concerning what it means or any options, we'll be glad to answer. Morgan, all right. Johnson, if you would just take your time and read over that, okay. And if you would, for the record, I was going to put time. You put 12:07. That's when. And if you would, for the record, you check the blank here down here. Would you read aloud the record what the blank checked? So I'm willing to make statements and air questions at this time, and you do fully understand all information of your rights. And I did. So that's when the interview starts, right then, when they date and time it, and they read me my guarantee rights. So no interview happened before that. It didn't happen. Didn't take place with Sergeant Johnson. Didn't sit down. But why would it have? Why wouldn't they have read me my guarantee warning then? This is when the interview started. No meeting happened between me and him. He lied about it under oath. And look what the record shows, because when you lie under oath, it shows might be something pop up that shows it. So he says me and him sat down and watched the video. Sergeant Johnson, during the investigation, look at his backup traffic here in Knoxville. So Sergeant Johnson said, this is a captain of the Highway Patrol now, captain and a liar and a perjurer. So in the record, Sergeant at the time asked me if I'd watched the video. He said, Sergeant Johnson, look at this. Okay, you said you've watched the video. Right, okay. So he's saying you said you watched the video. He's talking about the video that he claims me and him have already watched. This is what he's asking. Yes, sir, I watched it several weeks ago. So if me and him just watched it just a few minutes ago, or before that interrogation, why didn't I say, yes, sir, I've watched it, me and you just watched it? I said, I watched it several weeks ago. I didn't say we just watched it, because in his testimony, he says that we sat down before this interview and watched it. So in the record, you can see, and he even says, okay, was it in your patrol car or was it on TV? So you can tell you in his sworn testimony, he says, we just sat down and watched it. Here you get, so, okay, you watched the video. Yes, sir, I watched it several weeks ago. Okay, was it in your patrol car or on TV? So you can see, he lied under oath, because he said we had a meeting before this interrogation where me and him sat down together and watched it. And then in this interrogation that happened right after we sat down and watched it, he's asking me, have I watched the video? Why would he ask me that? He knows we just watched it because we just did. Or maybe we didn't just watch it, because I say, he asked me, have you watched it? And I don't say, man, you just watched it. And I watched it several weeks ago. I say, I watched it several weeks ago. So we did not just sit down before that interview and watch the video where he alleges in the unrecorded part that didn't happen that I lied, that I said the car was on fire. So see what a creep he is. So we've been going about. an hour and a half. Here's another lady with a cell phone, so I'm not the only one who does this. But here, we'll go over some more stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and get off here. When we're talking, let's talk about safety on college campuses and ineptness in the Highway Patrol having to call the National Guard to Memphis because of an inept Tennessee Highway Patrol, an inept governor, and the President of the United States has to come in and protect citizens in the state of Tennessee, because of their ineptness. So I just wanted to show you, when I was on the Highway Patrol, it wasn't just drunk drivers that I arrested. I did a great job for the public. This is an incident where I stopped a man that had several guns on him, took several guns off people. I took a let's see, okay, these are marijuana. I'll have to show that to you tomorrow. I've taken the wrong page, but I took several guns off people. This is where I'd taken drugs off people, and we'll look at that tomorrow. And I'm going to show you other discrepancies in their little case against me. And they'll do that to you. The courts are set up to perpetrate their lies, perpetrated by a bunch of liars that are out to defraud you. Here's the attorneys even lied in that hearing, in that case. So we're going to get off here, and I promised you, which I think I have, showed you how they commit perjury under oath. And Sergeant Johnson committed perjury, and really it was the colonel of the Highway Patrol, Colonel Tracy Trotz, that initiated that. And while you're responsible for your own actions, they really didn't have much of a choice if they wanted to keep their jobs, if they didn't lie for Colonel Tracy Trotz. And I'm not a violent or dangerous person. Colonel Trotz endangered my children and put my children at risk by his lies against me. And I know where Trotz lives. I know where Tracy Trotz lives. I could tell everybody today where he lives, but I'm not a piece of dirt like he is. I'm not a piece of trash. I won't do that. But that's the State Highway Patrol. Tomorrow we'll cover some more things that I didn't cover today about their lies, and this is how their courts are set up to get done whatever they want to get done, and to persecute you and make your roads more dangerous. And we'll cover what their attorney, the lies their attorney told, their professional responsibility. They won't give me my law license because they say I'm not candid, I'm not honest, I'm not credible. But their lawyer in this case lied, and I can prove she lied. She lied in court documents. I'll show you in writing where she lied. So we're going to get off here. Thank you all so very much for joining me. And subscribe, like, comment, share the message. And also, if you want to contribute, it takes money to travel the state to put the news out. You won't hear news like this from anybody. You won't hear the truth. People are afraid to tell the truth, and I'm concerned about my safety. I take precautions to protect myself, and you got to know, you got to do what's right for you to do. You got to pursue your calling and do what's right. Tomorrow we'll talk about the attorney Deborah Martin and the other attorney that works for the Highway Patrol that got a lie through the court. Subscribe, like, comment. Thank you all so very much. God bless you all. Please contribute if you can. Hit the square icon or the Cash App, and we'll continue putting out more news. And like, share, comment, and let's get off here for today. We've been going about an hour and a half, started a little early, and we'll be back on here tomorrow about 6:30 with some more great information, another story. Thank you all so very much. And remember, God loves you, and I do too. Goodbye.